There are people who only love you while you're losing yourself for them. As long as you're available, agreeable, predictable, they adore you. But the moment you say, "I need space," the temperature shifts. Suddenly, you're selfish, distant, cold, and you start to wonder, was it ever really love or just convenience? You see, many relationships aren't about connection. They're about roles. You play the role they need, the listener, the healer, the crutch. And as long as you stay in that role, everything is peaceful. But try stepping outside it and watch the storm roll in. If you enjoy this type of content, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. No shouting match, no betrayal, just your absence. And that's enough to unmask everything. People don't panic because they lost you. They panic because they lost control of you. They weren't in love with your essence. They were addicted to what your presence did for them. Some people confuse love with emotional stability on demand. You were the mirror they needed to feel good about themselves. You were the one they leaned on to avoid collapsing. And your silence, your boundaries, your withdrawal felt like death to their illusion. That's why when you leave, the reaction feels so out of proportion. It's not about the relationship. It's about the identity crisis your absence provokes in them. They don't miss you. They miss the version of themselves they could access through you. And that's the most dangerous kind of bond, where you're not seen as a human, but as a tool. Let that sink in. Some people will only love you as long as you stay small enough to fit inside their expectations. And the day you stop playing along, the truth shows up, uninvited and furious. You didn't scream. You didn't insult. You didn't slam doors or burn bridges. You just disappeared. And that was enough to break them. The panic, the accusations, the desperate messages. They come not because you did something wrong, but because you did something unpredictable. See, some people don't want a relationship. They want a routine. They don't want your presence. They want your pattern. And when you vanish, even quietly, you interrupt the emotional script they've rehearsed in their heads for years. Your absence becomes a mirror. And that's why they hate it. Because for the first time, they're not looking at you. They're looking at what they've been avoiding inside themselves. What collapses is not the bond. It's the fantasy. The illusion that you were the solution to their emptiness. You weren't a partner. You were a distraction from their fears, from their traumas, from the inner void they've kept buried under routines and emotional demands. And here's the cruel truth. When you leave someone who's fused their identity with your presence, you don't just hurt their heart, you shatter their sense of self, because they never truly learned to exist without you, not as a person, but as a function. You were their calm, their confidence, their justification, their emotional anchor. And now they're adrift, not because of who you are, but because of what you represented. But that was never your job. You weren't born to be someone else's emotional sedative. So if they collapse when you walk away, don't confuse their pain with proof of love. Sometimes what screams the loudest when you leave isn't the heart, it's the ego. There's a kind of love that looks peaceful from the outside, but feels like suffocation when you try to breathe on your own. It's the kind where the other person smiles, supports, adores you, as long as you don't change, as long as you don't grow, as long as you don't ask for space that wasn't pre-approved. It's not a relationship, it's a fusion, a symbiosis, where two identities bleed into one, but only one gets to lead. And guess what? It's not you. You think it's love. But love doesn't need to possess to feel safe. Dependency does. And in many of these bonds, what looks like affection is actually survival instinct. You've become their emotional regulator, their internal calm button, their nervous system's crutch. Psychology calls this anxious attachment. It's when someone doesn't love you. They cling to you, not as a person, but as a lifeline. You can feel it. Their moods change with your tone. Their peace depends on your availability. And any small sign that you might need time, might be pulling away, turns into full-blown panic. This is not about you being insensitive. This is about someone never learning to self-soothe and using your presence as emotional anesthesia. And here's the dark irony. The more you try to create healthy space, the more they call you distant, uncaring, heartless. Because your autonomy threatens their stability. But what about your stability? Who's protecting you? You can't build something real when your freedom is seen as betrayal. You can't grow in a space where needing air is treated like violence. So here's the truth no one tells you. If someone only feels safe when you're shrinking, it's not love. It's emotional imprisonment with pretty wallpaper. There's something you need to understand. The version of you they loved wasn't the real you. It was the containable you, the agreeable, the predictable, the one who dimmed their light just enough not to threaten anyone. And the moment you start expanding, setting boundaries, speaking harder truths, needing less, you notice a shift. Suddenly, you're different, distant, you've changed. No, you just stop shrinking. But to someone who's built their identity around controlling you, your growth feels like betrayal, because their comfort depended on your stagnation. People will love you as long as you stay where they can reach you, but try to rise, try to evolve, and you'll see how fast admiration turns into resentment. Because when you grow, you become a mirror they didn't ask for. You reflect everything they're not facing, their unfulfilled dreams, their emotional immaturity, their fear of change, and they won't say it out loud. They'll just sabotage quietly. A passive dig here, a guilt trip there, a sudden coldness when you share a win. They won't clap for your healing. They'll flinch, because your wholeness ruins the script. The unspoken contract was, you stay small, I stay comfortable, and you just broke it. That's the part that hurts them most, not your absence, but your refusal to be what they need at the expense of yourself. They didn't love you. They loved the utility of you, the containment of you, and now that you've outgrown the role, they're losing access to the control. Here's the hard truth. If your evolution threatens the relationship, then the relationship wasn't with you. It was with a version of you that no longer exists. And that's exactly why the collapse begins. You say no, you take a step back. You do the unthinkable, you choose yourself, and suddenly, you're the villain. Not because you did something cruel, but because you broke the unspoken rule. You were never supposed to leave. They call it abandonment. But what really got abandoned was their illusion of control. Because that's what it was all along, wasn't it? Not love, but control, dressed up as closeness. As long as you followed the script, emotionally available on cue, responsive, contained, everything seemed fine. But the moment you stepped out of character, they turned on you. Why? Because you broke the rhythm that kept their chaos quiet. You disrupted the arrangement where your existence soothed their wounds, without asking them to face any of it. And when that system collapses, they don't try to understand you. They try to pull you back in. Cue the manipulation, guilt, accusations, sudden victimhood, moral jabs that sound like concern. You've changed. You're so cold now. I guess I never really mattered to you. But it's not about you. It never was. It's about how they used you, often unconsciously, to avoid building their own emotional legs. Now that you're walking away, they're stumbling. Not because you were cruel, but because they never learned to stand without leaning on you. And here's the trap. They'll make their pain your responsibility. They'll say you broke them, ruined them, left them behind. But the truth is, they were broken long before you. You were just the crutch they leaned on. So no, your autonomy isn't selfish. It's a boundary, a necessary rupture. And if it feels like betrayal to them, that only proves they never saw you as free to begin with. They say you left them broken. But the truth is, you just stopped holding the pieces together. You were never their healer, never their savior, never their foundation. You just played that part for so long, you forgot it wasn't yours to carry. And the moment you walked away, not in rage, not in revenge, but in quiet, necessary preservation, the illusion collapsed. Not because you were cruel, but because they built their entire emotional architecture around your presence, and never once asked if you were okay being the structure that kept them standing. That's why it hurts so much now, because your absence didn't just take you away. It revealed how little they built within themselves. But that pain, that collapse, that's the opportunity, the moment where they can finally confront the truth that no one is coming to save them, that they are not entitled to your silence, your energy, your sacrifice. Some will lash out, some will spiral, and some might wake up, because losing someone who mirrored back their strength might finally push them to find that strength inside themselves. But whether they collapse or rise, that's not your weight anymore. You did not betray them by choosing yourself. You simply ended a contract that was costing you your wholeness. Let them call it abandonment. Let them call it selfishness. Let them call it whatever they need to avoid facing their own reflection. You know the truth. And one day, maybe they will too. But by then, you'll be long gone. Not bitter, not angry, just finally free. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.